TechSmith.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Forge. We've got a very technology-savvy, visual communication, wonderful episode for you today. If you want to follow us, though, if you got comments, go to the chat room on visuallounge.techsmith.com. You should probably already be there watching this. If you're seeing this, we're not sure how, but go there. Also, you can follow us on Twitter by going to hashtag TSCForge if you have comments. We've got people out there monitoring. We'll be happy to watch and listen and interact with you. Also, if you've got feedback for us, we just want to remind you that there's great ways you can get a cool and awesome The Forge shirt, limited edition, by emailing theforge@techsmith.com. Either send us some suggestions for screencasts of the month, or just give us some feedback about how we can make this more interesting and engaging for you guys. We're very excited about today's show. Starting off, we're going to be talking with Tom Crawford. Tom is a visual communicator and runs Viz Network. He also does a lot of other things that we're going to be talking about. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We're so excited to have you here and be able to chat with you. Before we get too far, why don't you just introduce yourself? We always have people who maybe they don't know who you are. They should, but maybe they don't yet.
Sure. Well, I do lots of things, but fundamentally I'm a visual communicator, and I teach business people how to communicate better using the visual arts. So whether they need to give a big presentation, or they have one-on-one communications, or they have small group meetings they need to run, help them learn how to communicate their message better. And frankly, most business people, that's a lot of what they do. They have to communicate down to their employees, or up to their managers, or across to their peers, so I help with that. But in addition, I actually develop iPad apps and iPhone apps, teaching people how to cook also visually.
Well, very cool. Before we get into that, because I want to make sure we spend some time on that, we at TechSmith are obviously big fans of visual communication. We create tools that do this, but are there any guidelines or principles that you think are really important for people to understand, that if they want to communicate visually, that they could just incorporate into what they're doing?
Well, sure. I mean, one of the most important things is that you don't have to be an artist. Anybody can actually communicate visually. And in fact, myself, I'm a programmer by trade. I do not consider myself an artist, nor do I play one on TV. But over the years, I've learned to incorporate visual principles into my work, both for communication out, which is something everybody thinks about when you think about visual communication, is what you're sending to other people, but also as a way of thinking, as a way of processing information, as designing apps, into thinking about organizing your work. Visualization can impact your entire life in some ways.
So I guess in their process of thinking about this and developing, is there something that really led you to kind of have the aha moment that this was important?
That visualization was important?
Yes, exactly.
Really, it was exposure over the years to different ways of thinking. So back about 10 years ago, I started with a visual communications company, and it was a really eye-opening experience to say, wow, there are other ways to communicate besides writing a report or sending out a spreadsheet. That, in fact, visual communication can be one of the most effective ways to communicate, especially complex stories.
So one of the things that, as I've been preparing to talk with you and share, is I went out and I saw that you had an iPad app about cooking. We're big food fans as well at TechSmith. We like to eat.
Cupcakes especially.
Cupcakes are awesome. So one of the things I was impressed with is beyond the app and the way it looks, because it's quite beautiful, is the way that you broke down thinking about recipes. As an instructional designer, I think a lot about instruction. And instruction, it's got to be clear. So what were some of your initial thoughts on we take that as kind of a base piece of instruction on how you rethought it.
Well, you know, really the recipe is flawed from the beginning. Most people think when they get in the kitchen that when they make a mistake that it's their fault. And actually probably 70% of the time it's not your fault. It's actually the recipe's fault. The actual design of the recipe causes mistakes. It says a large onion. What's a large onion? I mean, how big is it? You can get different onions at the different stores the same day and they're all different sizes. Your dish is going to come out differently. There's no way to tell what that is. Or, you know, sometimes have you ever gotten down to a recipe step and you're in the middle of a big dense paragraph and you go away to do something on the stove, come back and you're in a different spot and you skip an entire step.
It happens to me all the time. My wife doesn't like me cooking, actually.
Well, you know, that can be fixed. But you blame yourself, and really it's not your fault. It's the design of the recipe. The recipe actually helped you make that mistake. And if you rethought it and rethought what is really the core, then you can actually prevent most of those problems. And when people are in the kitchen, they have so many other things going on. They shouldn't be distracted by, well, did I put this ingredient in, and what did I do, and what do I need now? And that can all be fixed.
Okay, so let's take a quick look at the app. It's called VizChef. You can guys follow. There's VizChef.com. You can go check out there. Lots of videos and other things. It's also in the App Store for iPad and iPhone. So we have we have it already open here. Hopefully you guys can see it on our camera. We brought up baked spaghetti. Spaghetti in of itself, not difficult. Baked spaghetti, maybe the next level of complexity.
Well, we take it a little bit further in here where you're making actually the sauce and the spaghetti from scratch. Not so much the noodles, but everything else that goes with it, rather than taking a jar and pouring it in, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to take it up that next level, then doing it yourself from scratch brings so much more flavor.
Okay, so let's look through this as a visual design, because obviously there's this programmatic stuff, there's the cooking piece of it, but just really walk us through what the kind of the design concept for why you think it works visually.
Well, so first of all, from the artist standpoint, going back to who can do this, really anybody can, because if you really take a look at this closely, there's actually not that much visually going on as far as the design standpoint. There are very simple things. There's a title bar, and then there's a divider bar, and everything else is pretty much data. You know, a photo is data in a form. So visually, there's not a whole lot going on. There's maybe 2 visual elements that way, 3 icons, and that's about it. So it's a relatively simple, clean design, and I think that's one thing that people really respond to. The next thing that really helps is that information is grouped where you need it. So that was, when you think about any form of design, whether it's an iPad app or a print piece or, you know, a video, looking for putting only the information that's necessary in that moment is really important. So in this case, when you're trying to explore dishes and you're looking through, sometimes you just want to browse. Sometimes you want to search. But the most important thing when you're looking at any dish, say the gazpacho, you want to know what ingredients it has and then what steps are going to take to make that.
Right.
So those are the most important things. You don't need to know all the details right now. You're just saying, do I have this stuff in my pantry, and do I think that I can make this? So those
really,
basic pieces are all that's here, even though there's much more detail available.
So I know in instructional design, we think of this idea of chunking, and you're really just taking information and chunking it and laying it out, even though it's just data, it's a visual layout. This information goes here, this here, and here.
It's all prioritized, and that's one of the key things. When not only is it chunked, so you have it grouped and only the information you need right now, but it's also visually prioritized. So the most important things you want to know at this moment are the ingredients and then the dish name. Those are the most important things when you're browsing.
And I actually wish we could we had a little bit better methodology to interact with our viewers, because I would guess that if we were to say what we just said and said, hey, this is visual communication, there'd be a lot of people who would say, that's not what I thought of. I thought of, like, I look at the pictures, maybe that's visual communication, or the fact that you've got icons, but it's not the grouping part.
Well, it's all of that. It's grouping, it's hierarchy, it's font size, font choice, clarity, what's the story you're trying to tell. I was just talking to a friend of mine just an hour ago who described this as an information graphic. And all the principles of information graphic design actually flow through this.
And actually, I think you're talking about Carl Good, right?
I am.
Carl was actually, if you guys want to listen to what Carl had to say about visual information, he was on back in episode 2, so check it out.
So as you dive into the dish, so this is the information you need right now, but as you go in and take a look at making the dish, then you get much more detail.
Yeah.
But even then, it's still divided out by only the information you need at the moment. So in this step, the only things you need to know are that you need a seedless cucumber and that you need a peeler. There's no other clutter on here. None of the rest of the ingredients are here. None of the rest of the tools are here, and it shows you exactly how you need to do it.
So definitely a very focused approach.
It's trying to avoid that clutter of information, because the recipe is cluttered.
Right.
The fundamental design of the recipe is cluttered, so try to get rid of everything that is in the way. And then as you move through steps, now it says, well, you've already got the cucumber out, so all you need to add then is the knife and the cutting board. So those are the next things you need right in this moment. It keeps it very focused.
Now, I can see, well, you know, I'm not a great cook. Fortunately, my wife, she enjoys doing it, does a lot of it. But I can see where I could get to the point where, you know, I don't need to be told how to cut a cucumber or a pepper or something like that.
Sure, that's one of the concerns I had when I first started, because I was designing for people who, like you, want to be able to cook but may not know. But then there's other people who kind of know what they're doing, but you know, still need the steps, still need a little support. So you can actually switch between modes. So in this case, this dish has 22 steps. If we switch into settings, you can actually switch into intermediate mode and then back to the dish, and you'll notice now it only has 9 steps. It assumes that you already know how to peel. It just says peel and dice the cucumber into slices. And then next step, do the same thing with the peppers. So rather than 4 or 5 steps, it actually just cuts it down to the level and assumes some knowledge. In fact, even the language changes, which I think from an instructional design standpoint is important. Dicing means something if you've actually been a cook for a while, but if you've never done it, that word means nothing. So in the standard mode, you actually have words that are not cooking terms, where in the intermediate mode, it starts to step it up, and it'll assume you know how to dice, how to julienne, how to...
Right, and you know, it's interesting because I have my son at home. He's 10, and he likes to get in the kitchen and try to make stuff. And it was interesting just reading the recipe. You know, he was doing the best he could, but he read the recipe wrong. Instead of, like, I think it was baking soda or salt, it was like 2 1/2 tablespoons, and he read it as 2 half tablespoons. And so it's interesting to think about how information can be designed and divided up and made much simpler and easier to understand.
It's the thing that I find really disappointing about the recipe in general, but it falls into all kinds of other fields, is people haven't stopped to think about how the information should be delivered. The recipe's been around, strangely enough, for about 3,600 years. The format hasn't changed in that long of a time. With all the technology that we have, from the printing press to, you know, the computer to the iPad, we haven't stopped to rethink our information design. It's just assumed that, oh, this must be the best way. And I think regardless of whether it's cooking or home repair or many other things, we should stop and take a look and see how that can be rethought to make it easier for people so they make fewer mistakes.
Okay, so as we are getting somewhat closer to our time, this is awesome. Again, I just want to reiterate VizChef. I find it in the iTunes store.
Yes.
For the iPad and the iPhone. You can also go to VizChef.com. Tom, I guess I'm curious, are there things like, say I want to get better at this. I want to be a better visual communicator. Are there a few things I could do? I mean, like things I could practice with, or ways I could approach just to actually get better. Not just, I don't want to just conceptualize it, because you know, there's lots of times we talk about things, but practical things I could do.
Well, sure, there's a lot of things. Certainly there's plenty of books out there that you can reference. Game Storming is a great one by Dave Gray, Sonny Brown, James Macanufo, that talks about how to use visuals in the brainstorming process. How do you use visuals to think? It's a brilliant book, a bunch of games that you can use in all areas of your life, not to mention business. So that's a great place to go. Nancy Duarte's books, Slideology and Resonate, if you have to do presentations, they're very practical, very direct approaches to help you communicate better that way. There's also VizThink, which is a community of visual thinkers. So you can go out to vizthink.com, and they have a ton of resources on there, videos, you know, discussions of things that TechSmith does, as a matter of fact, on that site as well. So there are plenty of ways on that site to find out more ways to visually communicate and kind of begin that education process.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And again, we want to reiterate for you guys, VizChef, it's available now. Go out and get it. We've got it here. It is awesome. Even if you're not thinking about cooking recipes, if you want just to see a beautifully designed application and some beautiful pictures of delicious food, make you a little bit hungry, go ahead and check it out. And we want to thank you, Tom, for coming in and spending some time with us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Glad to be here.
And Tom is also, if we can give your Twitter handle out.
Well, at VizChef.
At VizChef.
At VizChef.
Great. So you guys can connect with Tom out there. If you have questions, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer. Of course, you can always send us emails or talk to us on Twitter, theforge@techsmith.com, or hashtag TSCForge, and we can put you in touch with Tom. So thank you very much. And we'll be back in just a second. We're going to be, next up, is a video by Mike Curtis. A couple months ago, Mike put together a video about how to embed from screencast.com. Well, he's back with a little bit more of some twin magic on how you can use embedding with your videos onto different sites. So check that out, and we'll be right back. All right, so we're having a couple technical problems. So any questions for us, Tom?
Well, actually, one thing we didn't talk about is the actual use of Camtasia and Snagit.
Yes.
Not necessarily in the app, but in the process of communicating for the app. So one of the things I do, you can assume that the app is easy to use and people get it, but you also need tech support, right? You need a place where people can go to reference it. So I actually ended up I've used Snagit since version 1, so it's been forever. But with
almost literally
almost forever, yes. But with Camtasia, I actually use it now to record directly from the development program to actually make my training videos out on the site. So you can go out there, and if you need to learn how to search, well, I think it's really obvious that there's a big search box at the top. If you don't know, it gets recorded. So it's a really great way to actually find out information about how to use the app. So recording directly gets super high quality, and it's a great way to do it. It's a very powerful tool.
Yeah. I went out and watched some of those, and those are, again, just great examples of what we can do. And we're obviously big believers of that. So I think we're ready. Are we ready to roll here? We're going to try this again. So thanks again, Tom.
My pleasure.
And again, Mike Curtis with some twin magic about embed code. We'll be right back.
These two videos are the same, but which one would you be more likely to click on? A lot of videos start with a fade from black, so the first frame in the preview is just black. Maybe that's what you want, and that's what you're going for. However, maybe you want to incorporate some company branding, maybe pull an interesting frame from the video itself to get that really attention-grabbing first impression. I'm going to show you how to do this. Thank you, interns. Before we get into the code, let's get the image we want to use as the first frame. There are typically two ways people get their image. Either they want to grab a frame from the actual video, or they have a pre-made cover slide created in PowerPoint or an image editor. Here's the key point. It doesn't matter where you get your image, but it needs to be the same size as your video dimensions. Here's one way to do it. First, make sure your video is playing at full size. Then scrub the video until you find a frame that you like. Pause the video, then move your cursor away so the controller goes away too. Next, use Snagit or Jing or some other way to capture the frame, and carefully capture it. Note the dimensions. Your video editor likely also has the capability to export or save a frame, which you could use. However you get your image, you need to get the image online. I just upload it to a folder on screencast.com. The goal is to get a link to the actual image file. Here, I see the image on the screencast.com view page. If I click the image here, I am taken to the image URL, which is the actual location of the image online. I know this is the URL I want to copy because it ends with an image file extension, in this case, PNG. Okay, we have our image. Now it's time to get into the embed code. We're looking at video embed code from screencast.com. I've pasted the code into my HTML authoring tool. In this case, it's WordPress. When I click preview, notice the black background behind the play button. Let's change that. This code might look overwhelming, but we just need to find one little part of this. we want to find and replace the link that references the first frame of the video. We'll swap it with the one we just copied, and the video will never be the wiser. I found the fastest way to find the hyperlink we want to replace is by pressing Control F or Command F on the Mac to launch the Find command. In here, I'll enter JPG, and here's where the original thumbnail is referenced. I'm going to highlight the URL, delete it, and be careful you don't delete any of the quotation marks, then paste in the one we copied earlier. Let's preview the post, and there you go, it worked. Hopefully that helps you create an engaging background of your choice.
Developer, so we know lots of you guys are fans of Jing and all it can do for you. He's here to actually talk about something that we do at TechSmith called Hackathon. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
So, Mark, you're a developer, and that.
Yes, I develop on both the Mac and the Windows platform for the Jing project.
Awesome. Is there one thing that you can point out and say that's yours?
No, we pretty much do everything as a team. So.
Awesome. So we wanted to have you here because of something that got started here at TechSmith that we've been doing. It's called Hackathon. Why don't you explain for us what Hackathon is?
Well, Hackathon revolves around the idea of what can you make in just a day, right? You know, in 8 hours or 8 and plus, plus 2 hours if you cheat a little bit. What can you actually accomplish? And we started it mostly because we heard some other of the companies out there do it. Google has their labs that they have for Gmail. But also kind of go back to our roots as, Camtasia came off from one of those, let's, play with, see if we can record things as a video. So that's kind of where we started off from and went with it.
So the idea of just being innovative and trying to do something really cool. And I guess what kind of projects are people, are there specific things that you're focused on, or is it just all across the board?
No, it's all across the board. We have some people worked on, maybe some new features, or not new features, but like prototypes, some new things for Camtasia, maybe some new video formats maybe coming out. But we also worked on, some people made some things for our development. One team made a build light, so whenever the build breaks, the red light turns on, we know that it's so and so broke the build, and looking to give them
sirens start flashing, like, everyone, the build is broken. Very cool. I guess so. From going through this experience, what are some of the big lessons we think we've learned, and maybe that people could learn from doing for themselves?
Sure. One big thing is you can do a lot in a day, but you can also do very little. It's very time constricted for you have to be conscious of that, and you have to think forward. Just in that point, it's just you have very little time, so don't worry about this. Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't worry about handling when you're offline. If you're making some desktop application that download something, you don't worry about it. Just do it. Assume it's going to work.
So it's a lot about kind of almost like what we were talking with Tom. It's about chunking it up and saying, you know what, we can't do everything, so we can focus on the core bits.
Exactly right. Just get down your functionality, and so that way at least you can show someone and see what exactly it does.
Very cool. Well, I know one of the things that we try to do here on the Forge is we want to talk about the culture of TechSmith a little bit, and I have been impressed as I've watched these developers sit around working on these ideas and these projects and push it forward. So I think it's a very cool project, and thanks for telling us a little bit about it.
Not a problem. Love to.
So, what we'd recommend if you guys want to do something creative and innovative at your place, try a hackathon. See what you can learn from it. We know we've learned a lot from doing it, and we hope you guys will benefit from that. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about one of the specific projects from Hackathon. We're going to be talking about the MakerBot with Adam Marks, and what the heck is a MakerBot, and why do we have one? So we'll be right back after this.
Camtasia Studio gives wings to the information trapped in one person's head or a one-time event, so it can go anywhere to train, teach, and sell. It's easy because your computer monitor is like a stage. Put anything up on the screen, record it with Camtasia Studio, and turn it into a great-looking screencast video. It's cost-effective because you can do it yourself. No expensive actors, sets, or snappily dressed producer. I'll show you what I mean. Meet Nate, the consultant. Nate slaved away for days to create a presentation for his best client. They were blown away. But then it was over, and all that great information would sit, forgotten and unloved, in a PowerPoint file. Or would it? Being a clever fellow, Nate instead used Camtasia Studio to record the presentation and post it to his YouTube channel with a couple of clicks. Unlike a boring slide deck, Nate's screencast was just like the live experience, with animations, voiceover, and webcam video. It gained him some attention, and some new clients. He realized people would pay for this kind of information. In fact, he could build out a complete training series, showing all the tips and tricks that he discovered. So Nate recorded step-by-step demonstrations with Camtasia Studio, and edited them into consistently great-looking videos, with Camtasia's tools to cut and splice, focus attention, call out important bits, zoom in on the details, even clean up his audio. Today, Nate's enjoying more traffic, clients, and influence thanks to his screencasts. You could even say he's becoming something of a rock star. And what about you? You must have a few good screencast movies locked away in your head. So get Camtasia Studio today and set them free.
All right, welcome back. We're here with Adam Marks. Adam Marks is a lead developer for Snagit. He's also one of our, I guess we call you our chief hackers. He helped bring this thing, the MakerBot, to TechSmith and help put it together. First of all, Adam, welcome. And what in the world is a MakerBot?
A MakerBot is a 3D printer. It actually uses plastic to make 3D solid objects. You can feed it objects with a CAD program, and it will print those objects, actual 3D objects.
Okay, so we can actually physically make stuff, for lack of a better word.
Exactly.
Okay, now why do we have one at TechSmith?
Well, it's one of those projects that kind of inspires creative people, which we happen to have a lot of creative people here. It's kind of a creative outlet to kind of see what you can do. It's part of this whole maker culture, which is like do it yourself, innovate with existing technologies, just try new things, and that makes a lot of sense.
And so when this thing came, though, it was literally in pieces. It was
just a big box of parts, hundreds, if not thousands of parts. The only thing that we lucked out with is the actual electronics. The boards of the thing were assembled, so we didn't have to get down and solder individual components, but everything else we had to put together.
And we did this through one of the hackathons that we were talking about. So it took a day plus maybe.
Yeah, we did succeed in this last hackathon, 8 hours, a group of anywhere from 12 to 15 people from across the company, like developers, QA, UX people, managers. We all got together, and in 8 hours we were actually able to assemble this thing. We had a lot of challenges along the way, and do our first print at like 6 p.m. at night, something like that. So pretty amazing.
It is awesome. And so these are just a few that are probably going to be really hard to see on camera, but you can see this is just a box, and we've got a little 3D TechSmith logo. I know you can't see that one from the camera, but just some examples of things you can do. I guess, how are people applying these out in maybe the real world to some degree? What are they actually making? Because these are just little like trinket kind of things.
Yeah, these are just samples. This is all that we've done so far. People are actually coming up with really good ideas, like cases for their iPhones, new kinds of cases for cell phones, like a part breaks on your vacuum, which happened to me recently. Rather than ordering through Sears, why not just print a new part? So and new innovative ideas are coming out of this.
Yeah, I've been thinking, we got lots of webcams around here. It'd be awesome to create like a, we had this little document cam for our segment earlier, but it was like 2 megapixel camera, and it's okay. But we got lots of webcams that got a lot higher resolution. It'd be cool maybe to create a, its own a unique stand that doesn't have to sit on top of a laptop lid or something like that.
Exactly. Just get out a CAD CAM program. There's lots of them out there. Google SketchUp is one that's easily accessible, and you can create these 3D models, feed it into the software, and then actually print it, see if it works, and then refine it from there.
Yeah, so this is very cool. So we appreciate you coming on, and again, the idea behind this is that TechSmith, we want to share with you guys some of the things that help us tick. And Adam, we appreciate the time you've taken to put into the MakerBot and explaining it to us. Actually, Kelly, if we can do this, can we switch to, if you want to see the MakerBot, that's what we've been showing through some of our cut shots. You can see the MakerBot in action. So Adam, thank you very much for explaining this to us, and I can't wait to see what kind of stuff we come up with. Maybe at some point we'll come up with some awesome Forge stuff that we can give away.
We'll keep working on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. So we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back with Betsy Weber.
Snagit makes documents and presentations stand out from the crowd. As the ultimate screen capture tool, it works by focusing in on exactly what you want to capture, then grabs it for you. Snagit turns any image into an eye-catching visual for quick and easy communication, and anyone can use it. Like Pete, a teacher, who uses Snagit to improve his class presentations, or anytime he wants to easily communicate online while he's at home. So when Pete wanted to share the campsites, hiking destinations, and beaches he'd like to visit on his next family vacation, he just opened Snagit, started capturing, doctored up his image in Snagit's editor, then used Snagit to send the image to his entire family. Sure, visual communication helps you explain a process or an idea, and Snagit can make that happen. But it's also great for just showing off something cool. That's why Snagit is so popular with people all over the world. It's popped up in business meetings, tutorial documents, and even a scrapbook or two. It's everywhere. So, how do you think you'll use Snagit? Download the free trial and see for yourself.
All right, we're back here with the awesome Betsy Weber. We've got another screencast of the month for you. Again, kind of following our theme, I guess, of visual communication. So what do you got, Betsy?
It's all about visual communication. So this month, I selected Dave Gray, who works at Xplane, and who also knows Tom Crawford. He's made a couple of screencasts recently with his interviews of people. And what he does is he records them, and while he's talking with them, he actually makes a video and draws out what they're talking about, so you can visually.
The one or two things that
here. I've got a couple that I'll send links to. Here's a recent one that he did with Jason Free from 37 Signals. And to me, it's a lot more interesting than listening to just audio alone, but you can see, different areas of maybe a web page they're talking about. In other areas, he's sketching out exactly what they're talking about too. So it's just really interesting and dynamic, and gives you not just the audio, but the visual to go along with the story.
Yeah, as I watched through these, I was really impressed. It just captured the imagination a little bit more than, I can imagine easily tuning out just the conversation. So.
Exactly, and much different than your standard interview.
every year. And
yeah, and another great thing I noticed at least was mixing the drawing with a lot of the actual screen video, mixing it together, so you've got, it wasn't just relying on what he could draw.
And I really haven't seen any other screencasts like this interview style. So I feel like he's starting maybe a whole new trend here. And what I really like about Dave Gray is a lot of us feel really self-conscious about drawing. If you talk to adults, they say, oh, I can't draw. I can't do that. But if you poll younger kids, everybody says they can draw. And at a certain point, people, maybe they get self-conscious, or as Tom mentioned, they're trained out of drawing. But you can draw, and your drawings don't have to be Monet or museum quality to get your point across. Everybody can draw. So start drawing, start sketching, start adding visuals to your presentation. So
very cool. Now Betsy also is, if you don't know Betsy Weber is a cupcake fanatic.
it's true. I love cupcakes.
And so one of the things that is awesome is on their MakerBot that Adam just was talking about, they did something pretty cool. Why don't you explain it for us?
So you know how you can print these little plastic little 3D things? Well, with MakerBot, you can add on a frosting instead of a frosting application thing. So instead of printing with plastic, you can print with frosting. So we had some cupcakes here, and we added the Forge logo here, and just sort of takes baking to the next level.
So very, very awesome that we can customize and print whatever we'd like. Delicious, the Forge. Who doesn't want some Forge cupcake? In fact, if you want some Forge stuff, you didn't see them last time, the Forge t-shirts. We'd love to give you one. Send us an email at theforge@techsmith.com. That's theforge@techsmith.com. Send us your ideas for a good screencast of the month. Maybe you got somebody that's in some type of field that's related to screencasting, visual communication, something that you think we'd find interesting, you'd find interesting. Let us know what you'd like to see.
And feel free to nominate your own screencast for the screencast of the month too. We want to see it.
Absolutely. We're going to give away a couple shirts for the people that submit for us. And if you're really lucky, I could send you this cupcake, but I might lick it first.
I'm going to send them this cupcake.
Even better. I love it.
Kind of wasteful. I feel kind of bad.
I don't even like frosting.
Kind of a cupcake crime right there.
Oh. We'll send you this shirt with the cupcake frosting on it.
Tastes good.
Thank you again, everybody. Have a great day. And it's visual communication. Go ahead and check out VizChef at VizChef.com. It's on the iTunes store. Also, check out the screencast of the month.
You're sweet, Matt.
It's falling all over the place.
Sweet.
Check out David Gray's screencast. And if you want to learn more about the MakerBot or some of the things that we're doing at TechSmith, check out the next episode of The Forge. We'll be on next month, third Thursday of the month. And we'll see you later. Thanks again.
See ya. Tasty.